Well, the major news for the last couple of days, it's certainly been the announcement by U.S. President Donald Trump that he wants to suspend the elections. He hasn't given the order to do so, but he did announce on Twitter that he wanted to do so. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. His justification for doing this, to try to extend his term in office to avoid an election because he knows he's going to lose, is that the mail-in is not accurate, and that it's going to be really, really super corrupt and inaccurate. Except that every study the U.S. has ever done on mail-in voting shows that it's fine. There's been no significant corruption whatsoever. And in fact, I'm not sure that it even found any to begin with, even minor corruption. So his excuse is already complete and utter nonsense. So, we really know what this is about. Trump is losing in the polls. He's losing support from among his own supporters. And now he's scared. He's afraid of what's going to happen. And that being losing. Now, it should go without saying that Trump does not have the authority to move the date of the election, which is usually the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. He can't do it. He can't write an executive order declaring that to happen. I wouldn't put it past him to try, but legally, no, he can't do that. If you do want to do that, you would have to get it approved by two houses of Congress and the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives and the Senate. Those are the two houses that you'd have to get it passed. Except the Democrats kind of control, so probably not going to happen. Democrats aren't gonna go along with this. We all know that this idea that somehow the election is going to be stolen away from Trump is completely facetious. His claimed reason for wanting to delay the election is completely facetious. He literally just wants to stay in power and damn the election if he doesn't get what he wants. Think about that. When has there ever been a president of the U.S. that openly said this? That's basically what he's saying right now, is that, well, the elections would get in the way of him ruling with an iron fist, so might as well just delay them until his poll numbers go up, or hell, just cancel them altogether. Even if he did, his term would still expire on January 20th. What needs to happen now is for the Republicans to finally stand up to him. I mean, I know they are spineless. They are spineless, cowardly people. But they finally need to step up and say once and for all, Trump, you've gone too far. I mean, I know bourgeois politics in general, but even they have to have some level of decency so that they don't lose standing in the eyes of the public. I mean, they ramble on constantly about the Constitution. What's constitutional? Oh, Obama's going to take the guns away. He's going to install himself as dictator. He's going to turn the country into Islamo-Marxo-communism or some other, asinine idea like that. But when they've got a Republican president directly threatening the Constitution, where are they? Where was that moral outrage when George Bush was essentially throwing the Constitution in the garbage and spying on the American public, declaring illegal wars, detaining people without warrant, extrajudicial killings, and a lot of the stuff that Obama himself just continued, but they didn't feel that they really had to say anything about that either. Where are they? If they want to maintain at least some level of dignity, the Republicans are going to have to say something. They're going to have to do something about this. At the very least, could you get off your ass and just denounce the guy publicly? At least, can you at least say something? I mean, politicians love to talk, so it should be pretty easy for you. And to the Trump supporters, you're either going to finally realize what this guy is, what this guy has always been about, or you're going to finally admit that you are nothing more than a fascist draped in an American flag waving a Christian cross. Because if you give 1 ounce of respect to the Constitution whatsoever, you will say something about this. And I think that this might cost him some supporters, but there's always going to be that hardcore group that are going to support him no matter what he does. Like he even said, he could kill somebody in the middle of New York street and he'd still be a popular president. So I think that these die-hard Trump supporters really need to start admitting exactly what they are. They are fascists. They want a hyper-nationalism, demonization of minorities, blaming foreigners for all their problems, and a government that is essentially unaccountable. I mean, you could compare rounding up Jews and putting them onto trains to what ICE is doing. It's not exactly the same thing as a concentration camp, but rounding them up is kind of, the same thing in terms of rounding them up based on their ethnicity. Because of this is about illegal immigration. Yeah, because the detention centers are full of European illegal immigrants, right? Right. But I think the bigger question is the bourgeoisie finally going to do something? Is the ruling elite of the capitalist class going to finally step in and say, okay, enough is enough. You have made this country look foolish for long enough. We've already got our tax breaks. We've already got our deregulation. We've already got everything we wanted out of you. Now it's time to take the Trump and throw him under the bus. It's time to get rid of him. But the question remains, for the section of the ruling class that votes, that supports Trump, who are they going to replace him with? And how are they going to deal with that, with the Republican Party being so tarnished because of everything he's done? Even the bourgeoisie have to admit, even though they would probably love to go full oligarchy, full fascist in order to defend their privilege and wealth, I think that they can't afford the civil unrest right now. There's enough as it is, and already using dictatorial, unconstitutional powers to fight it, also being ignored by Trump supporters and all those Minutemen militias who swear they're all about defending the Constitution and fighting a totalitarian government and are nowhere to be found right now. I mean, it's true, you can only suppress people so long before you have a massive outburst. This actually brings me to what Kennedy originally said. If you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. Now, Kennedy was using doublespeak at the time. When he was saying peaceful revolution, he means simple, soft, democratic reforms. When he means violent revolution, he means literally communist revolution, considering the time that he was speaking in was the 1960s, and there was a great upheaval of that across Latin America and Asia. But I think it still fits, even in this new context. If you don't give them these soft, liberal, democratic, Western European-style reforms, you could end up with something much more radical, not necessarily Marxist, but something very radical. I don't believe that this is going to lead to a revolution in the United States, or a Marxist revolution anyway. But it will lead to a great deal of upheaval, maybe even a fracturing of the states. Hey, I'm all for breaking down the U.S. federal government. If every state tomorrow wanted to walk away and become their own country, have at it. Do it. The power of the federal government to be the center of imperialist power in the United States would no longer exist. Well, because the United States would no longer exist. So, have at it. Do it. So the question is, how long is the bourgeoisie going to let this go on? They could let it keep going and just get their totalitarian oligarchy. But they also may not want to risk the social unrest because of it. And I just want to put one more thing out there, and this goes to the Republicans as well as the Democrats, to conservatives as well as liberals. Everything you have ever said about Nicolas Maduro being a dictator, the guy has won more elections than anybody in possibly ever. They have elections twice as often as in Venezuela. They're having elections twice as often as they're supposed to, because people keep calling for new elections every time Maduro wins. Then they call a new election, and then Maduro wins again. What does that say about you? For everything that you say, every lie, every slander that you put on Venezuela, calling it a dictatorship, Maduro keeps winning elections. You, on the other hand, you have your president essentially calling them to be stopped. But I know what you're going to say. Oh, it's just the Republicans that are doing that. Oh, it's just the conservatives that are doing it. It's America that's doing it. And if he does it and no one stops him, then it's America who let him do it. So I want you to think about that the next time you go shooting off at the mouth about how Venezuela is a dictatorship. Haha, Venezuela. Checkmate. Think about that. That real epicenter of fascism is right in your own country, staring you right in the face via a social media tweet by your president. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.